both of us be live on YouTube same time?
No,
'Cause
we would overwrite each other.
okay, I'll just stay as my own account then.
Yeah.
A personal.
Well, you should be able to log in, but without streaming. But then, I don't know what'll happen with the chat.
Okay. Looks like we're
Like, I don't
live
know if
now.
it'll boot me out. Yeah, sweet.
Both of us be live on YouTube.
Let me make sure I shut off the audio. Let me double check that Backerkit's
Both of us be
working.
live on YouTube. I hear
Yep.
myself fine, and you sound good too.
Cool. Cool, cool.
Oh, my
I heard
camera
myself
disappeared.
come through. Oh, let me check why. Why did your camera disappear? There, it's back. I don't know why it disappeared. But looks like it's all working. So I'm going to shut
Yeah,
as many things as possible down just so my laptop doesn't overheat or anything.
for sure.
And then you have the Q&A questions open too, right?
Yes.
Oh,
I disappeared off the stream again.
I don't know why. Huh. I can't seem to open up this. I wonder if I do this, if it'll work. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's working. Okay.
Mm, okay, I'm
There's a
back.
small
Okay.
delay.
Okay, yeah.
I just can't have another full window open for some reason, because then your camera disappears. But that's okay. I've got the chat there. I don't know if anybody's joined and chatted. It should be live chat. There we go. Yeah. Hopefully that's actually showing up for me.
I see you. Yeah, you're on the stream.
Oh, I meant the chat. Sorry. Sorry,
Oh,
folks. We're just getting making sure everything's set up. We've had some technical difficulties the last few times. Okay, there we go. I just saw a gold message, so my little chat window is working. Cool.
nice. Yeah, mine too.
Okay. Yeah, normally there's the bot that shows up like immediately, so I didn't know if it was working, but it looks like it's working. Hello, Gold. Thanks for joining us. We can probably go ahead and get started, but yeah, I mean, obviously, like first things first, right? This is the last Q&A um, before the big day on
Yes,
Tuesday. So
Backerkit is here.
yeah, it's kind of
It's
crazy to think.
such a long road, man.
Oh yeah,
It's how many times have we had to push it back?
yeah. I mean, we pushed it back. I think two times only, maybe at least like the backer kit or Kickstarter plan. You know, the crowdfunding.
Yeah, yeah, the
We've done some
crowdfunding part.
internal pushes for stuff before that, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think it was the right move, right? We really
yeah,
learned a lot trying to launch the first time and getting all of our backer kit folks, um, getting more backer kit followers and whatnot. So
absolutely.
a long road, but a good one, that's for sure. So yeah, just
Yeah,
crazy to think that in 5 days, literally less than 5 full days, we're gonna be live again. But just watching the backer kit, seeing how it
hmm
goes. So yeah,
gotta be great, man.
oh
So
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Finally, just bringing the dream to life, you know. So so
absolutely,
good.
yeah. So with that, I think we can go ahead and get started answering some questions.
Yeah.
Um, oh, your camera's gonna disappear here for a second. I didn't drop the link in one other place that I wanted to.
Oh, it's okay.
So
Oh, yeah.
there we go. And then you should be back now. There we go. Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started with the Q&A. We've just as the last few times, we have some questions from ahead of time that some folks asked. So we'll just go through those. You want to go ahead with the first one?
Yeah, yeah. Our good friend Charles from What is Tabletop. Yes, what's your hopes for game development? Do you want to see more versions of Indominant? Would you like to make different games, either using the same system or a different one? And I think, just jumping in, me and Zarek have had a lot of fun, like thinking of other places where our game and our lore and our like system could go. I think for sure that the priority is Indominate as a TTRPG game system. Like we want to establish multiple missions, we want to expand, create whole settings and things like that. But we're both avid card players. We're both avid like actual game players. So we would definitely want to expand eventually into those different kind of systems and so on. But I think definitely you have to get your foundation first, right? You have to hit your stride with one system, really nail it out the park, and that's our main focus. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Zarek, definitely take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it. Yeah, we have a lot of ideas, like Ricky mentioned, like we have card game ideas, um, other genres that are still in tabletop, but we're gonna focus on getting Indominant, the TTRPG, complete and out there first, probably with a few expansion books before we, you know, look to crowdfund or produce another game. We'll probably do some play testing like while we're still doing that sort of stuff, but
Yeah.
definitely want Indominant TTRPG to be established and fully out to the public before we do anything like that. Obviously, every now and then, we have like those ideas, and it's good to get them out of our head, but we don't really spend like time working on them. So,
It was funny. What wasn't it like last summer? Drago like called us out like, don't you dare focus on any other game or something. And we were just spitballing different ideas of like a
yeah,
card game we were looking at.
yeah.
But yeah, no, we totally get it. We have to be focused in one. But that doesn't mean in the future there can't be more things. I definitely love the war games, the Warhammer, the
Hmm.
kind of like scenario games. So that was another kind of style of tabletop game we were looking at too. So,
Yeah, yeah, and we
yeah,
love the setting, like, and so we would want to kind of get as many people to experience the setting as possible, right? So that
yeah,
means like TTRPGs, if we're being honest, right, are a niche, and so we likely would reach more people if we had it in more genres and more mediums. So who
exactly,
knows? Might even do like novels or comic books someday, stuff like that. So.
exactly.
Yeah, totally open and excited to do a bunch of stuff once, like we said, once the TTRPG is out there. So yeah,
Mhm.
Brian, the designer of Ethereal, who just recently released their playtest documents actually on their Discord,
Boom,
he
boom,
asked,
boom! Congrats.
yeah, I know, super awesome step, really really big step for tabletop design. He asked, "Are there any MacGuffins built into the established lore?" I think we've kind of gone back and forth on some of those. Like, we definitely will have them in like campaigns. There will be some things like that.
Mhm.
But as far as
I,
like items that players can seek out, it's probably going to be stuff that's like more campaign specific, or I know we've always, like I said, gone back and forth about artifacts and what those
yeah,
are. So they're depending on if we do artifacts, like those would definitely fall under the MacGuffin kind of
yeah.
umbrella. So
There's a big one, and I think I'm doing this right by pointing down this way in the corner. But on the corner in the background there's a Thaumatech gate, and I've always loved our lore about this. This thing allows intergalactic travel, and any kind of space fiction, sci-fi fiction needs some way of getting around, somehow explained, and I've always loved it. It's really cool, how our established species in the game are the Emergil and the Cenarians. They worked together and worked with humanity as well, and got everybody connected through these gates. But it's some crazy science, and if one of those goes down, Unfortunately, intergalactic travel is limited to light speed, which is still pretty slow, even in a giant galaxy, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of one fun one. But to Zarek's point, yeah, we used to have our first playtest. Actually, when I joined, there was actually artifacts kind of drafted up, and I like them. I always liked artifacts in other games, right? Like the D&Ds, the Pathfinders, all those. But the thing about it is I just never wanted one item that always like ruled the day or completely
Hmm.
changed the entire game balance. It just never made sense. Now, obviously, to get maybe something that can make something else work or something else to move forward in the campaign, that totally makes sense, just like Zarek was saying. So I think those are going to be there, but that's not going to be, I think, game breaking or you control this, you control the universe or something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely with our setting being grounded, they wouldn't be like, yeah, universe altering or like reality warping things. I think
Exactly.
an idea too that like was tossed around for a while of like what artifacts could be was, because of it's a superhero setting, like looking at Marvel, some people think when we say that the word artifact, like, oh, Mjolnir for Thor, but we don't want them to be that sort of thing because that's kind of Thor's source of power. And so, like, when you make a super, if you wanted to make a character like that, like giving you an artifact or like a magic item that gives you your power and has all these bonus effects would be weird. We'd rather
Yeah.
that just be like part of your character's story and like lore is like, oh yeah, that's their source of power. And so they have that. It doesn't just like make them super strong and give them all these stats. So the way we're thinking about handling artifacts, if we keep them as a concept, is not so much like a magic item in D&D or like just, like a +2 weapon or something like that. We already have that sort of thing with comic or costume upgrades. And
Yep.
so it would just kind of duplicate that effect, but then also I think it just doesn't serve superheroes well. And so the ideas we have would be more like non-combat stuff. And Ant, I think I just realized now who you are, and you were in one of our previous ones. That's somebody from another server that is actually going to be playing next Saturday. Sorry.
Hey,
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I'm running a
Welcome in.
one shot for some folks. So I it just clicked in my head because of their email for the Google invite I sent out. But yes, the
Nice.
Thaumatech gates are definitely inspired by like Mass Effect and Stargate. Visually they're very Stargate-esque. I think that was actually what I gave Milton as kind of like a
A
reference for
reference?
them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
for sure.
like I know we're kind of going back in a sense, or no, I guess not. This was on this talking point, but like with the intergalactic travel, like a lot of people don't necessarily understand like galaxies are so far apart, and even like you mentioned, light speed would take you thousands of years to get to a different galaxy. Actually, millions, I think. It's like the
Yeah,
nearest galaxy is like 25 million light years away, and so
yeah.
our way of bridging that gap and letting you go to other galaxies are these gates, and they using the combination of magic and technology allow you to just pretty much teleport, but that distance. And so instead of we've kind of using the wormhole sort of effect where you just like connect these 2 points, and so you don't have a long distance to travel. That's kind of the if we want to get into sciency kind of stuff. That's like
I'm
the
gonna have to
way.
take the paper and do the pencil through it and all this.
Exactly,
Try
exactly. You fold
to-
the paper. That's
Yeah,
that's what they do, and so yeah,
there you go.
definitely some Thaumatech stuff. Like I think one of the artifact ideas I always cite because it's one that I think is like a good solid concept for the types of artifacts we'd create is the Thaumatech. Um, oh gosh, what was it? It's like the oh no, I'm gonna have to find it now. How am I forgetting?
Ah,
It's the like quantum locking disk, and so it like
yeah.
locks on one axis in like relative space. So you can't really use it for combat. It's something that can like help you get over a long distance or something. And then the problem we've always had, though, I know it's like a massive tangent for this one question, but the problem we've always had with that is like your powers can do stuff like that. So it's like cool, but at the same time, it's like I could probably already do that. Like I can make an ice bridge to get across a gap or something, or if I'm a
Right.
gadgeteer, I could use a grappling hook. So, but it would be something more like that at least. Yeah, the
Definitely the
MacGuffins would be.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I'll let you read the next one.
Yeah, yeah. So August of TTRP Genius. What is the scariest superpower you can think of? For me, it's Mr. Immortal, and that's actually a really good one as I was reading that. Um, for me, I go right into like the necromancy kind of stuff. Being
Mm,
able to control the dead, trying to raise minions and things like that. Um, if I think of like ones that are like, man, like they are just OP, and like they could
hmm
just think, and therefore it is. I'm sure a lot of folks have seen the Deadpool 3 with what's her face, the bald chick,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean, she literally just goes doop doop, and you are like stuck into the ground, and I'm like, that's like one of my worst fears of just being stuck, right? So
Yeah.
those kind of crazy powers is just wow,
Yeah.
like it.
Xavier's sister. Yeah.
Yeah,
Xavier's
Xavier's
like long
sister.
lost
Yeah,
twin sister in the womb. I can't
yeah,
remember
yeah.
the story, but yeah, it's some crazy thing where like they were twins and
He
he
like blasted
absorbed.
her away or something.
Yeah, yeah, something crazy, and then she came back, or I think she's only ever existed in alternate realities or something, in the multiverse
Exactly.
kind of thing. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's like two ways to be scary with powers, right? Like you said, like something that's more like fear because of like what it is versus like what it can do to you, like how powerful it is. And so like yeah, necromancy, like raising the dead, stuff like that would definitely be scary. But I think if we're talking on like a power scale, I mean, I think if to keep it in the power scale of it, the Indominant universe, I think something like time manipulation or even like gravity manipulation or creating like portals and stuff, that would almost be as a like power level, that would
Yeah.
be scary to me because the things you can do are pretty crazy, right? Like we've all seen, well, maybe not all of us, but most of us have seen the Marvel movies where like Doctor Strange creates a portal and then closes it and it just lops off a limb. Like stuff like that can be done with portals. I mean, time, you can freeze somebody in time and so they're just trapped watching the world
Like
like zoom around
forever.
them. Yeah. So like that's
What
scary and like the crazy like power that it holds.
wasn't it an old Superman movie that like they locked the villains in like a glass thing in the galaxy or in space and they just floated away and they're like trapped in there.
Yeah, I
That's
think it's the
scary.
negative zone. That's what it's called, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, where
Yeah.
it's like an alternate dimension where like time doesn't pass or yeah,
Mhm.
crazy stuff like that. And so they're just trapped forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I think you're gonna really like this next one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Gold asked a great question. Where did the inspiration for Drive come from, and how did you decide how each archetype should generate and use it? So the inspiration from Drive just came from, I think I had just been thinking about like mana systems in fantasy games, and I really liked that as an idea versus like spell slots because we actually used to use a form of instead of a resource, it was effectively just spell slots from D&D. So like your tier 1 powers, I think you had 5 uses per encounter, and then it went down by one up to tier 4. So tier 4 you only had 2 uses per encounter, and then we started it, so I get it's not quite spell slots from 5e. It's more like fourth edition D&D, but and then I think tier 5s we started at a per day limit, and then the reason that I was kind of looking for another mechanic was the difference between tier 4 and tier 5 powers. Tier 5 powers are more powerful, but we had it set just so that there was like a progression at all times to where you had, I think, like 4 or 5 uses per day of your tier 5 powers. But then, like I said, you only had two per encounter for your tier 4. And so in your first fight, you could do more tier 5 powers than you could tier 4 powers. And it had this weird, like, logical disconnect that just didn't feel right. And, like there was just a lot of scenarios where you could use some of your lower tier powers, but then still be able to use stuff that's like way stronger. And for a
Yeah.
superhero, that just doesn't feel right. Where it's like, oh, I can't throw a rock anymore, but I can create a freaking earthquake still. Like,
Yeah.
how does that work? Where's the logic? And I like logic with game mechanics
Hmm.
to a degree. So, yeah, long-winded answer, but that's kind of what caused me to really look at creating Drive. And we had some
Yeah.
fun iterations. Like at first, it was not going to be a universal resource, and it was yeah, gold, exactly. It's drive. It's like your energy to keep doing things.
Hmm.
And so at first, we were tying it to your origin, and there was like for magic you would have mana, and it worked one way, and then we had a few different types. Drive was one of them, and the issue we had with why we changed it to base it off of archetypes was that
Like your
certain
current
archetypes liked certain origins. So like the way that you recover drive for like natural, for example, was really good for bruisers, and so it created a situation where a bruiser was incentivized to choose the natural origin because it was good for them to generate drive. And so I think there was a way to do what we were doing there, but we landed on something that I think is much better, or at least
Yeah.
the way we implemented it is much better. And so really the way we decided that each archetype would generate and use drive was just kind of like what they are good at, if that makes sense. So like we wanted a bruiser to be incentivized and rewarded for going into melee combat.
Exactly.
Because taking damage, like they're supposed to just kind of like run, be up front, and like kind of tank for their allies in a different way than the Guardian does. But like
And
take
there
hits,
wasn't a way before then, right? Like we didn't
right,
have something else to incentivize them to be up front or
right,
to
just their
act.
stats. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
just their stat.
right. They were just good at taking hits and taking reduced damage, and that was kind of it. And it worked just like perfectly, honestly. Like the drive, there's a that thematic feel that worked really well, and then we could give every archetype like a tool and a mechanic to reward them for playing in the way that they want to play. Because the archetype is like your play style, and so it's broad enough that like a fire character and a martial arts character, if they're both bruisers, they both want to play in a similar way. They can use talents and stuff to kind of shift that in some different directions, but yeah, it was a lot better than, oh, you've got the stats that kind of make you good at being a melee fighter, or you
Right.
know stuff like that. So yeah, I know it was a
Yeah.
super long-winded answer for me. So if you have
You're
anything to
good.
add.
No, I mean, really, you hit on a good point that it feels more like a superhero economy, like as far as drive goes now. Because I don't know, I've watched Invincible, right, recently. It's
Hmm.
great, animation and so on. But you ever notice Invincible keeps getting up? He keeps getting up. He's never really out of the fight except for end of season one.
Hmm.
But he basically keeps getting up and somehow turns the entire combat over, and that's what we want to drive to be about. That they played to their strengths, and as a result, the actual battle turned around. Right, they had enough
Hmm.
drive to drive them forward.
Right.
And so when you feel that, right, when your bruiser is down on his last couple of health, or the arbiter can't heal anymore, and then suddenly now the blaster is fully ready with maxed out amount of drive,
Right.
like that was like the perfect combo. right? To
Hmm.
go ahead and glass cannon and blow the enemy away. And it's just an amazing, cool feeling. So I really like what we did there, and Zarek kept pushing to change it. It was really funny. It was like a whole month of us like going back and forth figuring out
Hmm.
what it was, and we nailed it. So it was really really cool, man.
Yeah, I think I was
Uh,
talking in the Discord earlier, like the first implementation, and it was when Jared was on the team still. You
yeah,
guys just didn't like it, and I don't blame you because like the numbers I came up with were crazy. Like I think the lowest cost was like 5, and you started with like 20 drive and got all the way up to like 150, and it just like would have been a nightmare to track
more
because you're doing
more
so much
numbers.
math.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so much math, like addition and subtraction and stuff like that. And so then we shelved it for a while, and then
Yeah.
something came up that, and we were, I think it was Donnelly and Drago, some playtesters that played with us a lot
Yeah.
during our playtesting phase. They just like kept mentioning like something doesn't feel right, especially when you get the tier 5 powers and you have the tier 4. And so we revisited it, and yeah, we came up with this, and it felt great, honestly. We loved it
Play
like
test,
ever from
man.
the start. Yeah.
Can't play test a game enough.
Yes, playtest early, playtest often. That's like the wisdom that's usually shared, and it's definitely good to do that. It's good wisdom, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe this next one. Back to Frank at What is Tabletop. So, what made you decide a superhero RPG as opposed to any other genre? Zarek shared his story, I think, a bunch on like how he started with Indominant,
Hmm.
but on my end, maybe why I pursued like getting on the team and making sure that we keep on pushing towards like sticking with superheroes. Um, I've always felt like in the TTRPG scene, there's a lot of fantasy. There's a lot of
Hmm.
fantasy games, fantasy genre, and there's no discredit to it. I mean, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Yeah.
Like I'm a huge like medieval kind of like I love swords and shield stuff. Obviously, old D&D and Pathfinder fan. But the thing about it too is that it just felt like superhero RPGs never really stood out, or they were like overblown for me, overpowering, or like you get to a point where it's like, well, what's the point? It's
Hmm.
like why even play if I know I can beat this thing in like 2 hits or whatever, right? And Indominate always had that effect on me that you feel really grounded. That was the initial design, and now even as we get close to this launch, it's like it's still there. That you feel like, hey, yes, you are strong, but the world is strong too.
Hmm.
You have to be strategical. More people have powers, and they're going to use them against you. And I think that's really really cool when you actually can be a hero and save the day and go out there and really do some cool and epic things, momentous actions and so on, and like lift whole boulders out of the way to save people. I think that's just awesome. And it does make you truly feel like somebody who can be that hero in everyday life. You may be a hero, you may be, a parent, right, a brother or sister or whatever it is, right? And this just gives you that strong feeling, I think, that you can escape that and be able to actually be a hero, here at the table with your friends, with your family, and all that. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's why I feel like so strongly about it and going forward with it.
Yeah, yeah. Those are some great reasons. And like to add on to what you said too, right? Like you still feel super even though it's grounded and you have a challenge. There's still a challenge to
Hmm.
overcome, but it almost makes you feel like more super because you're not just invincible Superman who's always going to win. Um, I think that's something you and I both have always agreed on is like you want to feel super, but not unstoppable or invincible at the same time.
Yeah,
There's like a hard balance to strike there, but I think it's important because like, like you said, like what am I even doing if it's like I know I'm going to win or like what are we playing here? What challenge are we overcoming? And so I think that's part of what makes it feel super. It's definitely something
yeah.
like Peter knows I feel like super strong about in superheroes, but
Super strong
um,
about superhero games. That's
yes, yes. So
great.
yeah.
Yeah. You want
Um,
to maybe jump to this one or
yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
whatever, whatever you
We'll
think.
save that one for like the last question.
Okay.
Okay, so August, TTRV Genius. He does have a YouTube channel. We should link it in the description. But um, he asked, "What is the best piece of advice you've ever received? Doesn't necessarily have to be TTRPG related." Hmm. Honestly, that is a really hard question to answer. I'll keep it. I'll keep it TTRPG related, just because I don't want to get into like a whole life kind of discussion.
Okay.
That and I'm trying to think, and I can't think of anything like life related that, at least in the
He
moment.
doesn't. He doesn't want to be Uncle Zarek right now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I got a fun life one I think folks would like, but yeah, go
okay,
for
cool, cool. So I'll be the boring one and talk about TTRPGs more. But
it.
for me, I can't remember who said it or what I read, but um, it's pretty much just like be open to trying new things and like making big changes to your rules while you're, because especially like early on when you're playtesting and you're experimenting, like experiment, like don't be afraid to change it up from what you're used to and try new rules and things like that. And honestly, I think it's for TTRPG design is like the best thing that ever happened for Indominant was like that mentality of let's try this. Like that sounds like a really wacky idea, like Zarek or Ricky. Like, but hey, let's give it a try with some playtest sessions and see how it
Yeah.
feels. And literally, we wouldn't have so many of our, I think, like our most iconic and special mechanics without that. Like,
Yeah.
one that it's funny because when we had the conversation, I told Ricky, I don't think we need to make this change. And I said, but let's give it the good old college try and come up with a system and test it out. And that is dominance and weakness. We used to
Yeah.
use standard advantage and disadvantage. We did have it stacking, so like you could potentially roll like four d20s and you would keep the highest. But Ricky was like, that's kind of boring, or like, I feel like we can do more and make it feel more
Yeah.
super. And I was like, I feel like there's nothing wrong with advantage and disadvantage, but let's like try it. And so we sat down. I think we had a couple sessions like thinking and talking about what we could do to replace it, and we landed on dominance and weakness. And once we like even just saw it on paper, we were like, wow, this seems so awesome. And then we used it in playtesting, and everybody loved it. And so yeah, it's like one of our most iconic mechanics. So absolutely would not
Mhm.
have it without that sort of that advice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one, man. I think yeah, the first one for me on the TTRPG design kind of thing. Um, I kept reading this in forums, and even today, design the game that you want to play, and others will come to it. And it resonates with me. Like just on that last talking point, right? I liked advantage and disadvantage. I did, but it just didn't feel like a fun thing. It didn't feel like it was something for Indominant, It didn't feel like it was something that we could really go out there and have fun with. And so I kept on like tossing ideas out there with Zarek. We went into think tanks, lots
Yeah.
of energy drinks and such. Um, but
Yeah.
I think that's the whole point, though. You make the thing that you really, really like. I think all great games they start with that, right?
Hmm.
And what ends up happening is you get some really cool feedback, of course, from your players on, hey, does that make sense? Let's make this a little bit better. Let's tweak this, and that. But you never lose that soul of having something fun that you would play. I could play tons of Indominant, and like I love it. I have a campaign going right now. I have a great group that's just running and running. I always
Hmm.
have something going on that we're just moving forward and playing it. And it's like I think that's because we really did something special here. We made something that we would really love to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. And then I guess just a fun life one, and this is for those that are they're married or good soon to be married or whatnot. Never stop honeymooning was a big advice that my dad gave me, and that just means that always to remember your wife, remember your spouse, remember whoever special is in your life. After I get off of this, I always give her a big old hug, big old kiss, and just thank her so much for the support. My
Hmm.
God, the last like 3 years, Eric, right? Our wives have been our best friends,
Yeah.
biggest supporters. taking on, our multiple children, you
Yeah.
know, trying to help, trying to, babysit and all that. And it's like, it's such a beautiful thing, right? That we have that backing, that supporting. But yeah, that's something I never forget. I always try to do something special for her, and
Hmm.
always remind her how much I love her and appreciate her. So, but yeah, that is kind of the mushy gushy life advice. So,
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, I agree. It's good to. I think it's like it ties to something. I just watched a video about this. I think I watched it last night from RPG Elite on YouTube. He's doing a fun kind of what do you call it? Like what do they call them? Like not a playlist, but like a series. There we go. He's doing a fun
yeah,
series. He has this philosophy he developed for like how he approaches playing tabletop RPGs. And he's using this series to use those philosophies, but how you can apply them to life to like improve your life. And one of them he just talked about was pretty much along those lines of what you said. It's like do things that show appreciation and love for the people in your life. The philosophy was that RPG elites like support and appreciate their GM, and then
yeah,
the way he applied that was like what you just said, right? Is showing love. Like you need to show people that you care about them and stuff like that. And so that's what that like keep honeymooning is to
yeah,
be.
yeah. So
So
important, man.
yeah,
And whoever it is, right? Could be your parents supporting you, could be whoever, but
yeah,
just
yeah. Or
showing
like
that love
your
toward them.
game design partner, your business partner, Ricky, is always the first one to do it. He'll just be like, "Dude, I don't tell you enough, but I appreciate you and all the work you do and stuff like that." And so Ricky's much better at it than I am. Uh, but yeah, it definitely applies to a lot of things. It's a good one for sure. Absolutely. Nice and
For
wholesome.
sure.
And then before we go to the next question, I did want to just mention Mike joined the chat. He said his group really likes the dominance and weakness mechanic. So yeah, it's definitely one that is I think like the most talked about when people play the game. They generally really like either dominance, weakness, drive, or our action economy, which all three were all because of that philosophy of like try new things. Like don't be afraid to make big changes and try out new stuff. So yeah.
hmm Yeah.
Okay.
So next good one, from Gold.
Hmm.
Um, is there any plans for additional power sets, archetypes, or other additions in the future? If so, what's planned, if any? And I think, Zarek, you were kind of in the Discord today talking about some of that, right?
Yeah, I did. I did talk about that, so I can definitely
Yeah.
talk more on it. But if you want to go ahead and answer first, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want.
for sure. 100% yes. On power sets, there is a huge list. I think we're on like 35 or something of different actual power sets that we want to consider, put out there, really think through, and so on. Right, the thing about power sets, they're easier to go out and build than they are archetypes,
Hmm.
because archetypes are the whole play style, right? There's only so many kinds of play styles on maybe a battlefield.
Hmm.
And what we found is a lot of submissions or different requests for like, oh, this cool archetype ends up being a power set itself.
Right.
I mentioned way earlier what was a scary superpower. I said necromancy, right? Well, necromancy is more like a power set,
Hmm.
in the way that it actually builds out, right? That you actually can create a bunch of animations and all the things.
Yeah.
Um, but being able to do something with an archetype, it has to be like, how are they moving on the field? Are they somebody who's like in the back and the front? Are they supportive and all those kind of things? And that's, I think, a different strategy. So yeah, absolutely, we want to go that way. I think we're very going to be very strategical in how we work through archetypes and the combination with power sets. And no matter what, it's got to make sense.
Hmm.
Zarek and I agreed on this early on, that like any future editions really got to be with a good like story, a good mission, something that makes sense for why are these even here.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's like they just spawned out of nowhere in the universe. It just doesn't make sense. You have to have some fun way. That way, at the table, right? Like our players, they can go out there and actually role play out that. Right, like this
Right.
big thing happened, and therefore this cool power just came up, and blah blah blah. Right, and it's like just different ways that they could actually enjoy that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. that's a big thing to consider. Like you said, it ties back to another question from one of our earlier Q and A's. In the last couple weeks, but I think it was Sasha from our Discord asked like, "Oh, are there going to be big lore like changing events in the lore?" And my answer was kind of like what you just said, right? It's going to be stuff where we explain how this power set it came to exist. If it's like dark energy, for example, it's like, oh, I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like a black hole uh, opened up, and but when someone approached it, it like was actually leaking out this special energy, and it mutated them, and blah blah blah. Like it would be something like that, where it's not like, oh, the whole world's changed and like we've deleted these people or something. But yeah, to get back, sorry, I'm always like Ricky and I joke, I'm like an old man that just like rambles on and goes on tangents.
Good.
but to answer the question, like Ricky said, yeah, we have like I think literally like 35 or more. That does include the original 10, but power set ideas that we want to create. We don't want to share all of them per se with everybody. I think I might have done on some streams like a little sneak peek at some ideas. But we
Yeah.
definitely have like one or two that we're thinking are going to be first. And then with our backer kit, we have a special reward tier where somebody might get to create their own kind of concept, and then we'll do all the heavy lifting for them. That way they get to enjoy it and have fun. But yeah, I mean, even power sets come with a lot of work, right? Like we have to make all 480 powers because of just the number of powers we make for all 10 tiers. And then you have to make all 30 talents for every archetype. And
Yeah.
so it's a lot of work, but it's not quite the level of work that an archetype is because
Hmm.
let's say we release like five more power sets by the time we come out with an archetype. Well, when we come out with that archetype, we have to make 30 talents for every power set that exists. So, yeah, like if
Yeah.
we have 15, that's, if I'm doing my math right, that's 450. Like, so we would have to make
Hashtag verified
450 new
math.
talents, you know.
Yeah.
It's something we both have talked about like wanting to do, but it's definitely it would be a massive undertaking to create a new archetype, especially if we wait too long. It's like front
Yeah.
load, or if we front load the work on the archetype and then we kind of have to make those new 30 talents as we release new power sets, it's kind of a different story of how much work it is. But obviously, if it makes sense and we have a cool idea that we think people will
Yeah.
like, we'll do all the work necessary. I mean, we've done a ton of work already, so it's not like we're afraid of that.
Yeah. Gold said 35. Sheesh.
Yeah. So there's a. It's really funny because I was talking about this with Trekiros. He played
Oh yeah.
Indominant at the GM's Day Off event, and he had some feedback. He was talking about like, oh, when a lot of people think of, and I'm not knocking what he's saying here, but a lot of people think of like kind of wacky stuff like gravity manipulation and teleportation and duplication. And I'm sure you already are thinking it too, Ricky. Like those are a bunch of power set ideas we have, but we really struggled to like even select a certain number of power sets to start with. Like
Yeah.
we struggled to reduce it to 10, and that's because like we didn't want to release all of our ideas all at once, and then also it's like a massive undertaking. Like it's already with 10 power sets, it's a huge game. And then every power set we add is going to be a lot of extra content. And so, you
Yeah.
know,
There's a quality thing there too, right?
mhm,
We have to do it right.
yeah,
I wouldn't want to rush through one just because, Mike, ice cream manipulation. Absolutely. Chocolate, strawberry, Neapolitan. Anyways, but yeah, no, I mean, we want to do it right, and I
yeah,
want whoever grabs that that's power set and archetype combo, they feel that hey, there's a lot of time taken on this, to make it feel right, that I could have fun with this thing,
hmm
because kind of combination of the two has been thought through and moved through, and we've had different players run through, and so we're gonna have a lot more obviously with the Backerkit campaign and all that.
Hmm.
So yeah, that I think that's the thing that I think is the biggest thing, like making sure that it feels quality, not
Yeah,
rushed.
yeah, exactly. And like to that point, kind of what I said to him was we wanted to start with the simpler ones because then we could kind of refine our process of, and like figure out
Yeah,
the power scale and then also figure out like what the bounds of like how wacky and crazy and powerful we want powers to get right before because some of those like you said, like you really have to do it right. Like gravity manipulation, we really have to do it right to make that feel different than any of the other power sets. And so we kind of
yeah,
took the approach of getting what considered like staples, but also the ones that were simple enough that like we could do a good job while we're still kind of finding our like footing, making sure our design kind of process works well. So
mhm,
yeah, like I think psionics and gadgetry is probably the best example, right? Like gadgetry went through some pretty big changes. Like that was one of the more like zany ones, if you will, because
yeah,
it's got so many things it needs to be able to do. And so yeah, it's like a hard balance. Like we have so many we just talked about it. Like we have 35 ideas. Like we have so many ideas we want to get out there, but we also need to be realistic. If we want to ever get the game out, we have to like pick a small set and get it done. Otherwise, we
yeah.
would never really get the game out. You know.
Right. Yeah, you have to be able to limit down the scope, and just make it fun overall. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we've got enough time because we've got the two last preset ones. We can answer Gold's last question and then go to the
yeah,
one that Charles asked, the very fun one.
yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
Gold, you had another good question. Will rules be provided to make custom enemies for heroes to face? If so, how do they work? And I think there's a couple of things there. If we're talking on the backer kit campaign, there in the primer that we've already released, and there's a free PDF of it. There's already threats available for levels 1 through 5, and I think in the playtest packet we're probably going to mix in some missions and so on to actually provide some resources on there too that are already preset threats. I think that it's going to be, something that we start showing some of like how to make your own threat, but we have to balance that out as well. Like we don't want to kind of show everything because there's also a threat index book that we want to do next year
Right.
that actually breaks down. Our plan is almost 400 threats, right? And showing you how to make them from absolute scratch.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that balance of like, hey, let's give some resources so you can make your own, but you can also take this at heart that any threat that you see already pre-made in the primer, they can actually be reflavored any way that you want. So we have whole groups of like goons, for instance, and robots.
Hmm.
You could literally call that robot um, a goon or a goon a robot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just say it does the same damage, it does the same dice, the same checks, and all that. You just say, oh, it is a blood syndicate. Oh, it's a thrall, parasites. You just slap on whatever you want, that kind of coat of paint, so to speak. And we did that on purpose because we wanted you to. We didn't want to have to make 50 like threats per organization
Hmm.
when we could make 10 to 12 solid ones, and then you could have neutral ones that could be mixed in there and fill an entire, let's say, campaign, if you will.
Hmm.
So at least that's some of the my thinking there. Zarek, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about. I think we haven't. We're still undecided if it'll go in the Comic Editor's Compendium or the Threat Index. But like you said, like we're going to have a full system that people can use, and it's step by step how to make your own threats. In the meantime, though, really, it's along the lines of what you just said. Peter, the designer of Tales from Elsewhere, he just ran the GM's Day Off, I think this past Sunday, and he showed a very good way of. He took the bolter thugs and
Yeah,
he took their powers and kind of looked at like the little bonus effect. So for the regular bolter thug, they have a little like chain lightning effect on their basic power. And he took
Yeah.
that and he cut off that extra effect and replaced it with other things. So he used the bolter thug as like a template to make like a ice criminal or a fire villain or a super strength character. And he just did that all on his own by just thinking about like, oh, what's an effect like for ice? Instead of the
Yeah.
chain lightning, he made it so it slows. And then I think he said he even replaced their extra power with something else
Mhm.
and just kind of used the numbers that we had there as a guide.
Yeah.
But you could always do that, right? Is there's like a bit more of a like modify the threats that we have out there mechanically and use what's there as a guide for like the power scale.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a good what's the word? Not like median, kind of like a good halfway point until we release how we create
Yeah.
threats in the Comic Editor's Compendium or Threat Index.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a big one. Ricky's like the he's a much better game master than I am and stuff like that. So he's really good at all that stuff, like making threats and thinking about like what makes threats interesting. And so we have a whole system that we use on the back end for making like normal threats, elite threats, and boss threats. And even in the primer, you kind of see some of that.
Yeah.
It's just you don't really see like the math part of it, but you see like the
Exactly.
concepts that we use where like an elite threat, they get, I think we call it a talent now. That's changed so much. Uh, they get like a talent, and
Yeah.
they get a epic action, and so, and they
Yeah.
also get
And I
resistances
think
to
too.
status effects. So,
Yeah, and I think too, for gold, since you're on here too, another way to think about it is like if you have two of the same level threat, like two level one threats, technically their powers can mix and match, and they would be even because
hmm
that's the way they were built. So just like Peter was doing and thinking of, ice, right? That wasn't listed under bolter. Bolter shoot out electricity, but just because of that, you can mix up those things and be fine and safe for even your players to play through.
yeah.
So it's really fun. I think we're going to do a lot of cool things in our playtesting packets that I think will unlock that ability for everybody, to be able to have that. So that way they
hmm
can try out things that are outside of, just those kind of first couple threats. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it too, like with our first playtest packet, we're gonna release like a comic editor's playtest packet, which will be sort of like a mini toolkit.
yeah,
Sorry, my throat's getting dry. That will,
no
give
worries.
give comic editors the tools they need to run the game, and we'll obviously have to supply some threats that people can
Yeah,
use because the first playtest pack is going to be level 6 through 10. And so if we don't give you any more threats to use, it's kind of hard to play at those levels. So we will have some
exactly.
like supplements for the comic editor.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be like supplemental things. That might
hmm
actually be a fun thing to make sure we say in the backer kit. So thanks, Gold.
Yeah,
We'll
I think
probably
I
want to
have
mention
something there,
that.
but I'll make sure we have mention of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because yeah, the backer kit campaign is all for the SIC, obviously, right? That's the big thing. That's the player's handbook. But then what do you do with that, right? Like, well, there's going to be obviously these different playtest packets that have additional tools to just go out and play. That way you can gather a group of friends and you can play with just the player's handbook, and being able to do that, I think is going to be really fun because you'll be able to play and grow with your super as the playtest comes out and releases more and more
hmm
throughout the rest of this year. So really
Yeah,
excited for
that'll be really cool. I really can't wait to hear, and hopefully we hear some stories of like people who started at level one, and then we release playtest packet number one, and they keep playing with their group, and they get up to like level 8 or 9, and then they see the next playtest packet, and so they keep going, all the way up
yeah,
through all of them. That would be really cool to see. That'd be super
totally.
super exciting.
Super, super.
Yeah, I always laugh like I'm always being a dad joke like super. It's super fun like because it's superheroes.
Oh, that's great. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, I
Um,
think we got one more fun question. And feel free, Gold, Mike, if you guys are on there to go ahead and ask away any other questions too. But Charles had a fun one. Will Charles and Frank of What is Tabletop be featured as part of the lore of Indominant? Awesome. All right. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of like fun room for like stories and one-off and one-shots that exist because if you think about our game world, our universe, actually it's about 200 years in the future, but that doesn't mean that like we all didn't exist in some cool, fun way. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Um, so like putting some cool references in that kind of way and all that, I think there's probably some fun room for that. I think so. I think even Charles and Frank might do the same. Think they're working on their own game, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely some fun stuff. It gave me some ideas too, right? Like for um, maybe backers, like on the second Backerkit campaign, we have a reward where maybe people kind of like create something that gets added to the lore. It could be
yeah,
fun to do stuff like that for sure. So, and we always like to like I have a self-insert character who's in the lore. No, but everybody thinks it's one that it's not, and it's just a funny coincidence. But mine's like Rokai, a giant hairy Krigorian who's got silver hair, and it's a little like personal dig at myself in a sense because I'm already starting to get some gray hairs, and like my beard, I'm getting some gray hairs in my beard and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like a play on myself, but turned into a superhero. So I think it's fun to do stuff like that, and some of our friends will probably get injected into the lore as well.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, friends, family, different names will be dropped into there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
awesome,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. I'm glad we answered all of your big questions there, Gold.
Yeah. I think Zarek, with this being our last one before the backer kit launches, what do you see for the Backerkit campaign? What do you want from it to happen? Or
Oh,
what do you see
geez.
for it to happen?
I mean, obviously, our goal is to get funded and hit 15,000 raised. I think we've got some plans for marketing. We haven't done a lot of talking about it, but we have some big YouTubers in the TTRPG space that are making some videos. We also have a
Yeah.
bunch of really awesome small creators, like smaller to mid, I guess, creators. We just love supporting everybody. And so, yeah, I think we're going to kind of hit it hard on launch day. Like Ricky and I will be live streaming.
Yeah.
We'll probably start the
Got
stream
the
a
day
little
off.
bit.
I'll be here,
Yeah,
baby.
me
Extra
too.
extra energy drinks.
Yeah, we'll probably get streaming a little bit before launch.
Nice.
And I don't know what your thoughts are, but I've been thinking like maybe we'll watch the at least the segments of the sponsorships. I mean, it's like you want to do justice to the creators and their videos,
Oh
but
yeah.
at the same time we want to like give them the views on their videos. And so I think what we'll probably do is like watch the segments from their videos on the live stream, or who knows, we might have enough people that are like asking questions, and so we can do a live Q&A that's just kind of
Right.
on the spot. And obviously you hate when I say this, but my big hairy audacious goal is that we just crush it. Like we raise
Yeah.
a lot of money and we hit all of our stretch goals. We have some shown that we think are like reasonable that we think we can achieve, and then if things just kind of like go way beyond our expectations, we have some other ones
Yeah.
kind of looming around that are pretty exciting. One of them I know. Actually, I think the one you really are excited for is shown. That's the last one that's shown right now, and then one we've kind of made some hints at it in the Discord, but there's maybe some new character options that will get added for some of the higher stretch goals. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for some of those. It's some
Hmm.
lore stuff that like we've been developing on the back end a lot that I really like. Um,
Yeah,
so
it'll be
yeah,
awesome.
and like this is a passion for us. Like this, I started this 5 years ago. It's a passion project. Like I just want to be able to like get the book in people's hands and hear that other people are like having a great time playing the game and they're having enjoyment with themselves and their friends. Like that's
Yeah,
my dream. That's what would make me happy is to
same.
hear other people having fun. Like when Mike started his campaign and he said that he's playing with his friends and that they're having a lot of fun. Like it just made me so happy to hear that. So that's stuff that's really like my dream for the campaign. How about yourself?
Yeah, that last bit is exactly mine too. I mean, my thing with this is I just want the game out there in the world as much as possible, spread out there, on as many tables as possible, and just making great stories.
Hmm.
I think the world is a crazy, random place, and there's not enough heroes out there. And I think our game gives you that nice, fun space to be in, where you can really just let it loose and have fun and be a hero, be
Hmm.
somebody that's going out there and changing some really cool stuff. Eating some snacks and drinking some drinks and just enjoying yourself, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really see that for Indominant, like us just being that game that folks just want to pick up, and they feel great about picking it up. They feel great about supporting I think a great vision. We're
Hmm.
just we're just two dads, with barely any time at all. But I think once we, go out there, we're going to go out there hard, and we're going to keep on pursuing our dream and our passion here, pouring energy and love into Indominant and into the actual group itself, right? Everybody who's
Hmm.
supporting us. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So really, really excited for the future, man.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. And I think you reminded me a really important thing to mention too is like if we don't get our funding goal, we're still making this game. We're still going
Oh yeah,
to produce
yeah,
the SIC. Like
yep.
we're not going to give up. It's just going to change the kind of like what do they call it? Like
Like
the
the how.
yeah, or like it'll change our roadmap. Our roadmap will
Yeah,
change,
yeah.
right?
That's fair. Yeah, that's all it really
I'll be right.
changes. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think that's all that happens is that if we don't don't hit the goals that we're looking at, it's all good. We're still going to produce it. It's still going to be out there. We're still going to produce our comic editor compendium, our threat index, and all of our resources. That's still going to happen. I think it's going to be an amazing thing, for folks to be able to see that no matter what, we're in it.
Hmm.
I got the shirt and everything, man. Behind this computer is our sign from our conventions. We're going to be going to conventions and so on. So
Hmm.
no matter what happens, I think this is just a really, really cool entry point for us, to just, again, get our name out there, be able to connect with others, have fun, hear the many stories like Zarek was talking about. I can't wait for the stories, man,
Yeah.
and all the fun combination of heroes that, that people will make, whether
Yeah.
they are
Pe-
horse people or raccoons or whatever they want to be.
yeah, people never cease to amaze me with their ideas. Like some
Yeah,
people had some great ideas in our Discord even. I forget who it was, but someone in our Discord, there's the Inhuman character from Marvel called Medusa, where she like uses her hair. That's kind of her power is to like whip
yeah.
her hair out. And somebody made that using super strength. I think they
Oh,
used,
that's awesome.
and it's like I never thought about that. And so it's so cool to see some of that stuff. Like that's really the spirit of the game that we wanted to
Yeah.
create is like give you enough freedom to create that kind of character even if like at first it doesn't seem obvious. Like we try to
Hmm.
keep that balance of like, hey, super strength is like the Hulk, but then if you're really clever and a lot more creative than me, you'll be like, I could make a character who uses like their hair to whip people with super strength, and so
That's so cool. I'm just thinking about it,
yeah,
like
yeah, it's
you have
super
to
cool.
you have to be super powered with your neck power. Like it's great.
Yeah, super
That is
strength in a
awesome,
lot of
man.
ways. Yeah, so
Yeah.
just yeah, that's the kind of stuff that makes me happy and makes this all worth it, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's going to be great. Mike has a Facebook group where he's posting updates about their campaign, and they took a little hiatus, which is really cool because somebody was playing in a hockey season. So
Wow.
it's awesome that they were doing such a cool, fun thing, and it'll be awesome to see you guys get back to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, I'm sure Ricky and I have some nerve-wracking and exciting few days ahead of us leading up to launch. But yeah,
Nervous itches.
yeah, it's like this happiness and excitement mixed with uh, absolute like anxiety and stress too. Not in a bad way. It's just like we want great things out of this, and we want it to be good for people. And so
Yeah,
that's where that like anxious and anxiety and stress come from, right? Is like we want to make sure we're representing the game correctly, and what we know of it and what some of our amazing community members have seen. Like they say great things about the game, and like we just want to make sure we do it justice so people can see that. And not everyone's going to like it, and that's totally fine. But um, yeah, yeah,
hmm awesome. Well, with that,
okay,
guys, I will leave you to it.
yeah,
Thank you, supers around the world. We'll talk to you soon.
yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.